Do you know Tsering?
I was an art school dropout.
For me, it doesn't sound like a compliment.
Now I'm at a position in my career where I can give back.
How did you manage it?
The finished piece is not the whole story.
And after that, I look at you with different eyes. Today, Art in Adelaide is visiting studio of Tsering Hannaford, an amazing South Australian artist. Hi, Tsering.
Hi, Victoria.
I would like to tell a little story. I met Tsering first time a few years ago when I took a group of senior college students to her workshop at the Gallery of South Australia. To be honest, I had not heard about her before. And I would never forget how the lady in the gallery whispered to me with admiration in her voice, "Do you know Tsering? She is a finalist of Archibald Prize." And after that, I look at you with different eyes, because at that very moment, the person who not only participated in this art prize, but also got to a final was someone absolutely unbelievable, so brave and so confident. And now I know that Tsering is not only once participated in this art prize, but also got to a final a few times. And I would like to ask, what participating in art prizes means for you, and how does it affect your artistic career?
Well, firstly, thank you, Victoria. That's very kind of you to say such nice things about me. And that's lovely that you came along to the Art Gallery of South Australia workshops as well. They run a fantastic program there. In terms of entering art prizes and the benefits to an artist, I think first and foremost is exposure to new audiences. So when you put something into a prize, it attracts a lot of attention. People from all over head, especially to the Archibald. It's probably Australia's most well-known art prize. And so, you know, people who might not have discovered your work otherwise will get this lovely opportunity to see it in the gallery and connect with your painting.
And as I know, you started sponsoring some categories for other art prizes. Could you tell about it a bit?
Yeah. So when I was starting out as a young artist, I signed up to the Royal South Australian Society of Arts when I was about, I'd say maybe 19. I was at university. I wasn't actually studying art at that point in time. And I entered the Youthscape competition. That was my first involvement. So I put a drawing in. It was, I think, a self-portrait, and I won the drawing category. It was a $300 prize, and it meant the world to me. And at that age, I was still figuring out what I wanted to do, but it was really encouraging. And so that's why I now sponsor a portrait category in Youthscape with the Royal South Australian Society, to foster that same sort of sense of encouragement that I received as a young person. So I feel, having practiced for 10 years now, I'm at a position in my career where I can give back and hopefully give that encouragement to somebody else to continue with their passion.
And did this win help you in future to make decision to become a full-time artist?
I think so. I think every little bit of encouragement is important when deciding on whether or not you want to pursue something full-time. I would imagine without that sort of encouragement, you could potentially lose a bit of your confidence or just have a level of uncertainty. So it is important. As artists, we respond to our lives and the people around us, and we're very much, part of the fabric of our communities. And so having some public exposure, art prizes, exhibitions, and workshops and things like that, it's all very important.
I love your still life painting. I remember how I came to the gallery, and first thing what I saw on the wall were two your beautiful flowers. With this black background, they were like radiating light, like glowing in the dark. It's amazing. Can you please tell how you got this idea to paint this beautiful? Is it camellia or?
This one is a magnolia.
Magnolia, yeah.
I have painted a lot of camellias. Oh, well, thank you firstly for the compliment on my work. I started painting in this way that I had two aims. One was to force myself to paint a little more thickly. I mentioned with my portrait, I paint in thin layers, and with these magnolia pieces, I was really trying to paint alla prima. I probably ended up doing 2 sessions on this one. But the challenge with painting a magnolia is that they flower and they're beautiful for a day or two, and then they turn brown and all the petals fall off. So they're very transient in nature. I was interested in those sorts of themes and ideas as well, the impermanence of life, and the beauty of a flower and what that can symbolise about life itself. So some concept and some thoughts behind it as well. But the other part about it was I was painting at night. I was in my early 20s when I started painting in this way, and I would normally go to bed at maybe 1 or 2, but when I was painting I could stay up until 4 a.m. sometimes. Could not do that anymore now that I'm in my 30s. But it was a quiet time of the day when I had no distractions, no one would be ringing. I could just settle in for the night and paint under artificial light. And I think when you mentioned the glowing flower, that's probably what you're picking up, is the luminosity on the petals from that very strong directional light.
It just pops up.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Was it difficult to you to make decision about becoming a full-time artist? Because art world is quite tricky and not everyone is ready to do art like an everyday job.
Absolutely. I do think I have been very fortunate because I come from a family of artists. So my father has been practicing as a full-time artist his whole career. And that was really crucial for me because I had a role model in my family to show me that it was possible. That step when I decided to go full-time was in my early 20s. And I would say it also had a lot to do with my partner at the time. And support from other people. I think that's what this really illustrates, is that it is very crucial for artists. I had a very supportive partner who encouraged me to take a year off. I was previously studying, and just to give my painting a go and give it the time and attention that it needed. And that was the first year that I quit my part-time job. I wasn't studying for the first time, and that's when I got into painting and realised that I could do it. I made a few sales, not much, but the next year I made a few more, and then the year after I got into the flow and started exhibiting. And so I think I was maybe a 25 or 26 in the early mid-20s when I made that decision. So it wasn't a big leap because I hadn't been in a full-time profession where I had a big salary and I was going to take a pay cut. I had just been studying and doing uni jobs and things like that. So it was a stepping stone sort of process.
And did you study art in some art school?
Yeah, I did. So I studied postgraduate art history at the University of Adelaide. They had a fabulous course that was run in conjunction with the Art Gallery of South Australia. And the course still exists. It's changed a little bit over the years. But we had a wonderful opportunity to go into the gallery's collection and talk with the curators in the gallery. It was incredibly immersive and fantastic. I did that after my undergraduate, which was an arts and humanities degree, which I majored in psychology, so very different. And then I also studied at Adelaide Central School of Art, but only for the first year. I was an art school dropout, which you might not expect, but it was a time in my life when I think I really knew I wanted to pursue realist painting, and I'd done so much study already. I'd also been to TAFE, I'd studied fashion design, and I felt I'd done a bit too much study and I just needed to pursue my love. It wasn't the end of my study and learning though, it was just the end of formal study in Adelaide at that point in time. I then went off to America. I went to New York and studied for 3 months at the Art Students League of New York and Grand Central Atelier, where they teach classical methods of working from life. I went to France and I studied again, learning the skills that I wanted to learn about life painting, life drawing at Studio Escalier as well. And I returned to New York one more time to do some more study at Grand Central Atelier. So I have studied, not that degree course. And workshops. Rob Gutteridge School of Classical Realism, he runs a fantastic Art Renewal Centre certified program here in Adelaide. And I created an écorché with him, I might show it to you later, which was a fabulous experience, and he runs some really great programs.
We spotted a few beautiful sea-themed paintings in your studio. Is it some upcoming series of works, and what do you plan?
Yeah, I am working on a body of work at the moment. This is in response to an artist in residency experience that I was part of 2 years ago with Pass Bailey Pearls. So they invited me to Koory Bay, which is one of their pearl farms in Western Australia. I think I might be maybe the third or the fourth artist who's been invited to take part in the residency. So this is an example of one of my landscape studies that I painted on plein air, which I am recreating on the canvas now. So I've been working away at this, trying to maintain the freshness of the immediacy of painting from life in my study with a little more detail that I took some photographs. So there are some still life paintings that I'm including in this body of work, and at the moment I'm working on drawing those all together with the aim to exhibit them at some point in the future.
And talking about your realist painting, it's a question which bothers in my mind. I know sometimes when you come into exhibition and you hear how people say, "Oh, what a good painting or drawing, whatever." It looks just like a photography. And for me, it doesn't sound like a compliment.
Okay.
Yeah, because simply copying some subject in a photographic way, you have the photograph, you don't need to paint it again. But I would never hear it about your works, because despite the fact that you work in tonal realism, your works still living their own life, and they don't look like just like simple copying. How did you manage it?
It's an interesting question. So photorealism is a genre in and of itself, and you're right insofar as that what I do is not photorealism. So I don't work from photographs, I work from life, and that's probably...
Always.
Yeah, not always. Sometimes I might get a commission, perhaps somebody's passed away and their family wants to commemorate them, and obviously then it's a photograph. But predominantly everything else that I do is from life, and so for that reason you're never going to get the same level of perfection that you might if you're working from a photograph, and that's probably what you're detecting is that sort of imperfect element.
I did not mean imperfection. I can't explain it by words, but I just see, like a xerocopy. It's not like this. It has some story behind, some part of your soul. I don't know.
Well, it's nice
it's feeling. It's not.
Yeah, it's nice that you say that, Victoria, because I see in my work as well, the finished piece is not the whole story. The process, especially with portraits, is where a lot of the artistry exists. It's in the relationship between subject and painter, and what happens in the studio is in itself another world, and the finished painting is just the result of that experience. So insofar as comparing that with working from a photograph, it's so different, because if you were working from a photograph, you wouldn't have that same interaction with your subject.
And you're sharing part of your life with your subject.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, you get to know each other really well.
You said that you attended so many different workshops and master classes and other art study around the world. And did you meet some particular artists who influenced and inspired?
Yeah, absolutely I did. So after my father, first and foremost, as my inspiration and a mentor figure, I met two artists at the Art Academy in Adelaide, run by Robin Ely. It was Robin himself and an artist called David Casson, who's from New York in America. And I think that first experience in the workshop was so integral in my journey, because it connected me with other painters who were very interested in realism like me. And so in terms of influence, I think that was a very influential time in my career and in my journey, because I spoke with the other people I met at these courses, and then I learned about other places that I wanted to go. So this is where I first heard about the Art Students League of New York. David Casson, obviously living in New York, mentioned it to me, and some of the other students in the class had also talked about it. And so I decided I want to go there. Then I went there, and then when I got there, that's when I discovered Grand Central Atelier. And so then I went there, And then I spoke with artists there who recommended Studio Escalier in France. And so I went there and everything
like a chain.
built like a chain. Yeah. And there's, I've met some amazing artists in my time who can highly recommend different courses here, there and everywhere. And if you've got the time and if you can raise the money to go, these opportunities are just really inspiring because of the connections that you make.
Can you please tell us a little bit about this beautiful portrait? Who is this lady and why did you paint her, and what is the story behind?
Yeah, thanks, Victoria. So this is a portrait of a dear friend of mine, Julia Townsend. She's also an artist based in Adelaide, and we used to share this studio space together. So the date on this one, 2015, nearly 10 years ago, we were not artists when we met. We both had a passion for drawing. One of our first friendship catch-ups was a drawing date. So I went over to Julia's apartment and we sketched a bowl of oranges, and I still remember it because I think she was maybe studying physiotherapy. I think I was studying art history, but I hadn't started painting or getting into art yet. And so we met at the beginning of our journey. She's become a mural artist. I've gone down the route of portraits, but it always reminds me of those early days in my career when I had the time to paint a good friend. I wasn't busy with any sort of commissions. So I think this is lovely because it's reflective of that time, but thinking more broadly, artists throughout history have always painted their nearest and dearest as well.
So many people, when they discover some artistic skills in themselves, they start practicing art just as a hobby. For example, some plumber would make beautiful sculptures, or a lawyer at his free time will paint landscapes, for example. But as a full-time artist, do you have some hobbies, and are they inspired you and help to recharge?
I do. I mentioned I studied fashion design at TAFE when I was young, and that's always been another passion of mine. So you could probably call it a hobby. I do every now and then make myself a skirt or make myself something. I'm able to adjust and alter my own clothing still, which is skills I learnt at TAFE. And I also taught some workshops at the Art Gallery of South Australia. I taught fashion design, which I think is where we first met.
Yes,
and
it is.
That, as a hobby of mine, was also a passion, and I had the skills that I'd learnt studying to be able to teach that on, and so that's one of them. The other area that I've become interested in over the past few years is philanthropy. Sponsoring the Art Prize with the Art Gallery, the Royal South Australian Art Gallery for Youthscape. It has been important to me, and I'm also involved in an organisation called 10 by 10 Philanthropy in Adelaide, and that is a model that connects young people with grassroots organisations, and it empowers young people to give back in a meaningful way.
You mentioned that you run some workshops, and didn't you think that you could not only run workshops but also teach in some art school, like awarded courses?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't have the time. I think if I were not so busy with my schedule of portrait commissions and other works that I paint, I would love to teach, because in a way teaching is one of the best ways to consolidate your own skills and continue to learn and stay sharp, you know. It's like practicing your scales if you're a musician. Unfortunately, time is probably my biggest restraint. However, I've had some wonderful experiences in Adelaide at some of the colleges as an artist in residence. So I spent maybe about a month teaching at St. Peter's. In their art department, I taught a couple of year levels and a lunchtime project. That was wonderful. I got to mix with students of different ages and ability levels, and we created a lovely self-portrait project and a landscape in perspective of one of the school buildings. So I really enjoyed that, and I thought, I do love this, but I just don't have the time. I did that with Loreto as well. I taught the students there portraiture, using skills, mind you, that I'd picked up when I was overseas studying. So that's the nice thing about teaching, is anything that you learn, you can then share with your community. And so people get this lovely opportunity to learn these skills that you might have had to go and travel overseas to get. but you can bring that home and then share that quite easily. So I've done, as I mentioned earlier, a couple of workshops, or a few, at the Art Gallery of South Australia. I've done a workshop with the Art Academy and Robin Ely, who I also mentioned, and interstate as well. Most recently I went up to Tweed River Regional Gallery and taught some still life, which was beautiful, lovely to go to such a gorgeous area of Australia.
You mentioned, and it's quite obvious, that your dad is a very famous South Australian artist, and he was your tutor and I think best supporter. But he works in absolutely different style than you. Was it difficult for you to find your own style and to keep going, not trying to copy your dad's works?
That's such a good question. And you know what? I think so many artists do begin their careers by imitating works of other artists that they really admire. I've seen it, I've witnessed it. And I did the same. When I was starting out, I painted subject matter that my dad had painted because I admired what he did. And I thought, I'll try and see if I can do that. And then it's only after those initial stages, I think, that you then take it in your own direction. And I think that's a natural progression. So over the years, you know, Dad has been an influence, and he's really, I think, instilled in me this appreciation in working from life. But other than that, he hasn't been too instructional. He's wanted me to kind of work it out on my own. And that's why I have gone and studied under different artists and different teachers, because I've wanted to gain some different perspectives and work out my own method. And I have. It's slightly different. It's different to my father's style. And it's subtle. Some people don't notice the difference as much, and then others do. But I definitely think it has become my own.
Thank you, Tsering, for your beautiful stories, and thank you for your time. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you, Victoria. Lovely to talk to you as well.
We did it.